have you
Okay.
blocked. They don't know how to block.
Anyway.
They don't know how to do
Okay.
that in Discord. So you're not friends with a Dreamcatcher 666?
Anyway. Yeesh. Yee. Anyway.
Nice.
Thank you.
I'm so confused.
Aren't you all? Oh, yeah.
I'm so confused. Anyway, hi guys. I'm Alden. It's nice to meet you guys. I'm a bit lost. So, yeah. I like questions, by the way.
So do we all, but these people don't know how to ask them.
Okay, who the heck just said that, and who the heck are you? Oh God. You've got a lot of... You got a lot of... Are you, like, scarred up or burnt? Like, what's wrong with you?
A little bit of everything.
I mean, there's a little bit wrong with everybody, but...
I just shit it.
Oh, that's a nice first question for me. Is why am I lost? Look, I am a dimension hopper, just like my mom, but you know, yeah. I guess I should say my actual full name, but hi, I'm Alden Argentum, but I just go by Alden, so please don't call me Aldenir unless you're my actual parents. And sadly, my dad is no longer in the land of the living, so if you're not my mom, don't call me Aldenir. Just call me Alden, or I will punch you in the dick.
Ow.
Wait, what?
That
Anyway.
sounds very painful.
Ah! Why is there everybody showing up around me?
That's because if I remember right, she said, I will type.
Anyway. I'm sorry about that, everybody.
That's alright.
I don't know who this guy over here is, so...
That would be my brother.
No, I meant the one that was just talking a second ago. That probably shouldn't have been talking. But anyway. So... Introduce yourself, because I don't know who any of you guys are, by the way. So, Mr. Scarred Up Boy, or whoever you are. You
My
are?
name is Dabi.
Dabi. Okay. Well, looks like this one's got a burn mark on his face. I mean...
This would be my brother, Shoto Todoroki.
Oh.
Yes.
Then who's the weird one with red hair?
My hair is not weird.
That one over there
Ejirou
is
Kirishima.
Kirishima.
Oh. Okay, and apparently someone named Myra Chappelle asked if I had a quirk. What the fuck's a quirk?
Nephew. Chappelle.
Oh. Wait, nephew? Nephew?
A quirk
Really?
is a power that a person has.
Did you forget about your awesome Uncle Gladdy?
Oh, hi, Uncle Gladio. But what is a quirk?
Like I said,
But Mom's not here! What's a quirk?
It's a power from another world.
Oh. I'm not... Can somebody please explain I'm not Varian? Who
this
the
is
heck
not
is Varian?
Varian.
Really?
It's
Everyone.
not very
Oh.
you idiots.
Okay. Well, anyway. So, you guys have any other questions for me? Or for anybody else that's here? Except for my uncle. My uncle's just kind of here because my mom doesn't trust me alone. Also, there went the PG-13 that my mom wanted to keep. Oh well.
Actually,
That was my
I'm
fault.
here because of these.
Oh,
Noodles.
you're here for the cup of noodles.
Hey,
Anyway.
your mother gave them to
Sorry,
me.
I kicked my desk on accident, so
I was
it hurt.
I was actually blaming myself for that because I am the one that said the F word. So.
Oh, I said it too.
Well, I'm not gonna break it.
Anyway, so got anybody else got any other questions? But
Here.
why does Todoroki sound moody? I don't know because I don't know any of these people. And-
Yeah, Mr. Icy Hunt.
They're from a different anime verse.
I still
All of us Todoroki sound like we're pissed, I guess.
Is it because you guys have daddy issues?
Low
What?
blow.
What did I?
Nephew.
What?
Nothing. It's okay.
Remember when me and your mom told you not to just say what's on your mind?
But
Because sometimes you have a bad habit to be rude?
that's true.
Pat.
Sorry.
You're
I'm-
fine.
I mean, technically speaking, with my dad being dead, don't I have daddy issues too? Because he died when I was a baby. Don't I technically have daddy issues too? So
Fair
what?
enough.
So
Yes.
So shouldn't that be you know?
Oh, excuse me.
Talking to me when
You don't even know who I am! Who the heck are you? Super Saiyan God Gamer Stanley Bell? I don't know who you are, so, and I don't think you know who I am, so why don't you, skedaddle? Shoo!
Also, nephew, I've heard about the Stanley Bell person. If they creep you out, let me know.
Okay. Anyway, do you guys have any questions for me or for these other people that I still have yet to actually better meet?
How about you introduce yourself a little more?
Well,
Maybe then people will actually ask you questions.
but, true. Hi, I'm gonna say my name again because I'm not sure if everybody heard it, but I'm Alden. I don't really like saying my last name again, but, it's Argentum, but I am the son, and only son, I hope, of Prompto Argentum, and I probably would not want to say her name, I'm not sure, but everyone seems to call her Miss Aizawa, but
That's because your mother is a round jumper.
just like me.
Yep.
But,
and in the world that those boys that are in with you are from, that's her name is Erin Aizawa.
Oh, they kind of made a weird noise when I said her name, like
She's their teacher.
like the one that sounded really moody. The one of someone called him Todoroki. He made a weird surprise noise.
Like that.
No, kind of noise.
That's because that your mother is his teacher.
Oh.
And then the Dabi person that's with you guys is someone that Dabi does not want to get on the bad side of.
Okay.
Ever.
Your mother's a really strong woman.
Well,
She's
I kind of figured, but
kind of scary, honestly.
shouldn't she be scary?
I mean, your mother did body slam me that one time.
But mom did tell me about the time that she was the general of the Imperial War. Kachan is, but someone said, what have I missed besides Kachan having Deku and mommy issues? What?
When did we
But Explodo Dork, as your mother calls him, doesn't have mother issues.
I was about to
She's
say
just a
that.
pure mother that actually knows not to tolerate his crap.
But, I can't see! Mom, why? Anyway.
Explodo dork, that's funny.
I'm gonna have to agree with you on that one, brother.
I couldn't see for a minute.
I think it's the best name he's ever had. Anyway, stop that before he decides to come in here.
Okay, but anyway, does anybody have any questions for me or for Dabi, Todoroki, and I forgot what the weird red-haired kid's name was again.
Ejirou Kirishima!
Okay, Kirishima, I'm gonna... Anyway, anybody got any questions?
We would really like some questions.
Apparently, Todoroki, you're called Peppermint Boy.
Wait, what?
What is that? What is that supposed to
That's a
mean?
new one.
It's because he's half white, half red,
Oh.
with his hair.
Isn't that kind of an insult, though, to him?
Yes.
It's much better than being called Icy Hot.
Why is he called Icy Hot?
Or a
Half of his
Pokeball.
power is ice, the other half is fire.
Oh.
Brother, calm.
Who's your crush in this? In what series? What series?
Wait, what?
Let's not talk about my crush. So, yeah.
Okay, we don't have to do that. No.
Who's asking about your crush?
Rena Confox.
Oh.
Besides, I'm too young to have like a person. So, I'm only 14, guys. So,
Yeah, keep that in mind.
That's what I used to say when I was young.
I mean, I do have a crush on someone, but I'm not going to talk about it.
I mean, that's kind of true.
It's not
brother.
people's
kinda
place
did
to
say
know
that.
who you have a crush on anyways.
Yeah. So, any other questions?
Be shy.
You guys don't have to just ask me questions. You can ask Ejirou, Todoroki, or Dabi questions too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ask questions to
There-
Bluefire over there.
Who's stronger? What? Who is Himiko? I don't know a lot of this stuff.
No,
A very hyperactive girl.
Guys, I don't know who half of these people are. I'm a 14-year-old boy from a futuristic timeline after an Imperial War. I don't know any of these people from this weird place, okay? I only know this scarred up person named Dabi, this one that has apparent daddy issues named Todoroki, and then this weirdo with red hair that literally has like a hyperactivity problem. So can we actually ask me questions I actually know? And if you want to ask the others questions, say who you're asking the question to. I'm 14. I get confused easily. Damn it.
Oh, there goes the PG rating again.
I'm still keeping it. I'm keeping
Brother, are
it.
you okay?
Yes.
Are you sure?
Uncle, these people are confusing me.
Well, I guess Uncle needs to get involved.
No, Uncle Gladio, please don't. Not right now. Please put your Buster Sword away. Please. Thank you.
Brother, are you okay?
Who's more edgelord? Dabi, Touya? Dabi, Touya, or Todoroki? Dabi is Touya, though, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, that's my name.
Yes.
Hey, Alden, using your powers. Using my word time What? Using your powers, where in time would you like to go? The past, so I could see my dad.
Very good question. That's a very good question.
I've actually never met my dad.
We should have the
What the heck was
surprise
that?
anytime now.
So why are you here exactly? Also, by the way, since I'm only 14, there is no such thing as 18 plus for this stream. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry to all you perverts who came just for the... What?
For those of you who came for the 18 plus, it's not gonna happen.
Not today.
No.
Not today, perverts.
This is just
Thank
this
you,
is just
brother.
this is just a Q&A.
Q&A stream.
Put the
Yeah.
Buster Sword down, Uncle.
Anyone that tries to elude my nephew gets a blade through the body.
Anyway,
Stay away.
but
Yeah.
Am I really hyperactive?
sometimes, from what I've noticed. Also, I'm not sure if you heard me correctly or not, Battle Cry, but I would go back in time to see my dad and actually get a chance to meet him, since I didn't get to meet him. My father died whenever I was a baby. So,
Gosh darn it, Aaron. You said you would bring the surprise. Hurry up.
Ow!
Damn it.
anyway,
Oh,
do we
well,
have any...
well, there I
Huh?
Gosh dang it, brother.
Uncle?
I think you should answer that.
I don't want to get up, though. It's open.
I'm
Oh,
home.
there's a good question.
But the what? What question? So if you time traveled and interacted in the past, it doesn't affect any. Well, no. The thing is, though, he's not gonna know who I am, though, if I went to the past.
Are you sure about that, son?
Uh-oh.
What, you're not gonna welcome your father home? After I've been gone for so long?
Uh-oh.
Get over here.
Excuse me.
I'm home, my dear son.
Oh, dang it. We're back.
What? My reaction exactly.
You having back problems, brother?
A little bit.
So apparently my mom brought my dad back from the dead, apparently. Why haven't I traveled back into the past? Because I don't want to mess things up. I'm stupid enough to actually touch something and have a butterfly effect. Okay? No offense, I got my dad's shiny squirrel syndrome. Okay?
Jeez, I come back to life and you love me like that? I see how it is.
I have the shiny squirrel syndrome and I'm still sick. I got your sickness.
I mean, it's alright. Todoroki and I both know someone
I mean,
else
the
with
sickness I
shiny
used to have like a long time ago.
Other than the fact that, unlike you, I don't have a barcode on my wrist. Anyway, any more questions that are actual, like, questions?
Yeah.
Are you tired? Have you tried No! I live in a futuristic world that literally nothing is here because of the stuff that has happened in the past. I mean, if I could see, because my hair is always in my darn face. Ow! My eyeballs!
Ow.
By the way, I'm not a girl, I'm a dude, so...
That was an eye-opener.
What, you didn't know that?
That's a funny joke.
I think my
Anyway,
brother's going
so
insane.
now that your dad's back from the dead, where would you go now?
I mean, there's always that one place I love eating. You want to come with me there?
I think what Battlecry's asking is where would I go in time travel? I'd probably go slightly back in time to actually go to this place called Shinra. Why didn't you build it? I don't build things, okay? I break things if I touch stuff. I have Dad's problem. If I touch something, I break it.
Hey.
Also,
Well, geez, love you too, son.
Xavier asked, would you fight Deku? Who's Deku?
A
He's,
character from the other people.
Well,
He's a very kind boy. You would actually get along with him very well.
does he break things too, like I do?
His bones.
Yeah, this is bones.
Okay. Do I need to have a talk to this kid about breaking his stuff?
He has a power or nephew that is too powerful for his body because it's brand new.
Any other questions? And my hair is pulling an alfalfa. Let's not.
Brother, are you okay? Jesus Christ.
Anyway. Okay, so any other questions for me, Ejirou, Todoroki, or Dabi? Todoroki's over here dying. Are you okay over there?
I can't tell if he's...
Calm down, bro.
What got into you? Jeez.
The fact that they started talking about him breaking his bone.
That's kind of funny.
I'm dying.
But I can't.
Hey, Uncle, could you do me a favor? Could you oversee this stream? If you can.
So funny.
And if... Fine. What about you, Dabi, Todoroki?
Sure.
Sure, why not?
Because everybody's getting confused. Anyway, any other questions?
Ow.
What about you guys? Dabi, Todoroki, Ejirou, do you guys have any questions for me since I did kind of show up in your timeline unannounced?
Well,
No.
Not really. You can tell that we're a lively bunch.
I mean,
Okay.
sorry about that, guys. I have like napkins and stuff, so I don't like sneeze on people.
Ah.
Anyway.
Brother, are you okay?
Anyway.
My brother's dead.
So, any questions? Ooh, what's this?
It's a bottle.
I know it's a bottle, but it's a...
What? I'm confused.
I'm not doing that again. That smelled
What?
like something that Uncle Ignis would make. Why? Why do I have shiny squirrel syndrome?
I'm gonna go get some water.
Okay, let's see.
Oops.
Alden, when are you gonna punch Deku in the face? Why would I punch someone in the face?
What? Why is that
Why?
the first question?
Why is the first thing you ask me is when I'm gonna punch someone I don't know in the face?
Who asked you this?
What?
Super Saiyan God Gamer Stanley asked, when am I gonna punch Deku in the face?
What is your problem?
You know what?
Punching Deku in the face.
You're not stopping me this time. Come here, Stanley!
Uh-oh.
Anyway, so Xavier said Todoroki, how do you feel about the Toto Deku ship?
Oh, God.
What's a ship?
It's where you're in a relationship with someone.
Oh, I know nothing about that, so I'm too young.
Good.
I'm too young to be in a relationship. I'm only 14.
Check your DMs.
Ow.
You know what?
I hurt myself.
So
I've run away from this question for a while.
I don't blame you.
And they had an open requesting.
I'm just gonna say it one good time.
So I requested
don't-
this.
I
Kurosuke Okami gained
I support gay shipping. I'm not gonna say much after that.
I hope to God I don't start coughing up blood like my dad did.
Actually, you shouldn't be having what I have.
What is squirrel syndrome? It's called shiny squirrel syndrome. It's an attention disorder. If I see something shiny or something else,
Something that's interesting, you deviate from what you're currently doing.
Yeah, I want to grab at it and pick it up. Like, for example, the bottle thing here. See what I mean? See what I mean? I pick up anything. I mean, it is shiny, but I'm gonna stop picking that up before I end up getting in trouble for it.
Oh, you mean like how you picked up your uncle's Buster Sword that one time?
I didn't know what it was! It was shiny!
It's alright. I still plan to make you that, little request you asked of me.
What? What?
I was hitting my leg. Don't get.
Okay, anyway.
Okay,
Questions!
that's adorable.
Questions, please!
Yeah, I don't know what I was gonna say. I lost my
I
words.
want to watch what you say, brother.
No, I lost my words. Dang it.
Oh, okay.
Gab.
No! Uncle! They're being mean. The people on this stream are being mean to me.
What are they doing?
Hey.
Someone by the name of Goddess Neko Rini VA held a shiny coin up at me.
Hold on. Let me take care of this. Hey, Sebastian. Yes? Your daughter is being a butthole to my nephew. Oh, really, Rini? Well, you're brownie. Get on top of the fridge.
What?
You'll understand.
No.
the joke later.
Are you okay over there, Scarface? I mean, Dabi?
Sorry. I'm okay.
Okay.
Kind of surprised my brother didn't laugh at that. God damn it.
So apparently Goddess Neko Rini VA ran away.
Uh-oh.
Oh, you ain't running away from me, daughter.
Anyway.
Brother, are you sure you're okay?
Anyway, can we actually get questions, please, instead of people being weird? Like seriously, please. I already gotta deal with these three weirdos.
What?
Wow, I feel hurt.
You don't even know me. How could you feel hurt?
I don't know.
I don't know, maybe because we're actually nice people.
To be fair, nephew, they don't.
I don't know what a quirk is.
That hurt my ear.
Yeah, no.
Stanley, what part of I don't know what a quirk is do you not understand? That means I don't have a quirk.
Stanley doesn't get a lot of things.
Stanley's
Kind of a dunce.
he has no brain.
I'm gonna do something. You ain't stopping me. 'Cause I'm starting to get tired of it.
Where's my...
Oof. 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 He got
What's
timed
so
out.
funny?
He got timed out. Oof.
Big oof.
Dummy.
Yeah, that was coming.
Anyway, can we actually get questions, please? There is literally 8 people watching. Can we get questions?
Questions.
And to not confuse me, please. I'm seriously only 14. Stop trying to confuse me.
Questions that she can understand, please.
She?
Or he. I'm sorry.
Gosh dang it, brother.
Rotom is one of the genderless Pokemon.
What is the wariest? You mean scariest? What's the scariest thing I've done in my life? Go up against 5 different Imperial soldiers at once. I had to get my uncle to save me.
That sounds like fun.
I almost got myself killed. My uncle was mad at me for about 5 weeks.
Oof.
Yeah, because who decided to run out when told to be stayed home?
I'm sorry. Okay, this person by the name of the Dark Carnival is funny.
Oh, we call him Gansey.
He's funny. Yeah. Why? Why? Quit giving me shiny things. I need to pay attention to my health right now, not other shiny things.
Who did it?
Xavier something said, here's a shiny red ball. I don't like red.
Xavier! You're about to be put in timeout just like Rennie in a moment.
What's the thing that made your uncle really mad at you? I just explained!
Too bad, you're in timeout. Get on top of the fridge.
But I literally just explained what made my uncle really mad at me. Me running out like a dumbass in the middle of an Imperial War and almost got myself killed. Stop asking me the same darn questions. Since you're from the future, what's it like there? Dark.
It's the future.
It's dark.
It's the future.
It's dark. It's desolate. It's deserted. Do not wish this upon anybody. How about a shiny red balloon? No!
Who did it this time? Who did it this time?
The Dark Carnival.
Gosh dang it, Gamzee.
Apparently, it was someone named Pennywise, and then someone named Venom tackled him, saying nope.
Nope.
Is it because I'm 14? Is that why I'm getting the weirdos? Is that why?
Probably.
What the heck
It's
is
the
that
internet.
thing?
That is what's considered a Pokemon.
There's this little thing we call the internet. Don't worry about it.
And also, baby girl.
My
Baby
leg.
girl,
Any actual questions, please?
baby
Brother, what did
girl.
you do to your leg?
Don't
Again.
forget,
My leg
Shadow
hurts for
looks
some.
like Kirisuke, so
Well,
that's
don't
also
ask
a
me
torture
what it
for
is,
you,
because
too.
I don't know.
Oh no, maybe Momo hit it too hard with a freaking pole.
Yeah, she might have.
No.
You know how
What?
rough she can be.
Maybe. Fair enough. Anyway.
Have you tried on the Imperial uniform? No! I would get worse than arrested. I would get killed. And also, my uncle won't let me go anywhere near the Imperial Army anymore.
Oh god.
We are almost getting killed. You can't blame me now, can you?
Well, this person named Rennie keeps asking me about the Imperial uniform and armor.
Why would you ask about lame armor like that when you can have awesome armor like mine?
But you don't wear armor, Uncle. You literally walk around halfway topless.
Exactly.
Sounds like somebody I know.
I didn't need to know that.
Because at least I know
What?
how to protect myself properly.
Well, I don't. I'm a kid. A messed up kid in the head, but I'm still a kid.
I mean,
Kind of
you could have
adorable.
gone through worse.
Oh, you mean like
It's
my dad?
manly to be without a shirt.
The fact that you could have died the day you made the foolish mistake.
I was 8.
Actually, now that I think about it, you were following something shiny that day, too.
Do I want to know?
Wait. According to this Rennie person, they put on the uniform and said maybe because I'm an Imperial soldier.
Rennie?
Can I kill him?
No.
Darn it.
But her father can punish her. Sebastian,
Oh, God.
can you take care of this? Rennie, you're getting the whip.
Uh-oh.
Let's see. They spelled Kirishima wrong. But it says Kirishima, who would you fight in the Dragon Ball universe?
I'm gonna have to get out of character because I didn't grow up around Dragon Ball, so I haven't seen it at all.
Yeah, can we ask questions that the actual people here would actually understand? What the
Here, I can take care of that question. And I can actually give a logical answer who they probably would, only because I know certain characters from it. I would say they would probably fight, no offense, Yabja. Anyway, moving on.
Let's see. It
Who's
says
that?
Don't worry about it.
It says Kirishima Rock Boy. Do you like Kachan? Who's Kachan?
Remember
Rock boy.
Explorer Door told you your mother calls Explorer Door?
Oh, him.
Oh,
Are you
they
okay
jumped
over there,
on me.
redhead?
Explosion boy.
I was drinking
Wait,
water.
what did Miss Isella call him again, brother?
Everybody's talking. Everyone's talking at once. Dabi, hush. What was that, redhead?
Sorry.
I have a name. I just
Forget it sometimes.
water everywhere, but
You
he's
don't.
manly. He's a good friend of mine.
but they asked if you liked him.
What the? You dang headphones.
He's manly. I'll leave it at that.
Apparently, according to Rini, she said, "Bring it, father," and Shoto, you're adorable. What?
Wait, what? Did my mother just get called
Oh,
adorable?
really, daughter? You're gonna regret those exact words.
I am not adorable.
Can we get actual questions that are revolved around maybe my universe or the universe these guys are from? I'm from the universe that's called Final Fantasy, and they're from this world called My Hero Academia. Can we get actual questions around those, please?
Apparently not. These people don't know how to ask proper questions.
Rini!
Me.
Stop being a butt! If you don't quit, we'll have you timed out. Stop that.
Tell Rennie to check my server because,
Rennie, you wouldn't want to get hurt now, is it? You wouldn't want to be hurt now, would you?
According to your father, you're grounded from your powers for a week, Rini. Because he took your powers. What part of Final Fantasy am I from? I'm from the Final Fantasy 15 world, like the new game, the Final Fantasy 15.
Whoops.
What is the oddest thing you rode on or saw? A chocobo! I love those things. They are odd, but I love them.
How did I know
So
that's
do
what
we,
she was?
so do I.
Like they're
How do I know that's what I was
adorable.
gonna say?
Like they're adorable and they're fluffy and feathery, and I want to hug them all day. I love chocobos.
That is adorable.
Anyway.
How did I know that was what they would? That's what they. Fire truck. I can speak English. That's what. Fire truck.
You can do it, bro.
That's what he would say. I knew that.
Alden, small innocent being. I am not innocent. Anyway, what is your
Compared to me, nephew, you are.
what is your biggest fear? I don't fear anything.
Except dying.
Damn it!
The color.
What?
Or black.
Hey, I'm wearing black. How am I?
This way it's coming after you.
Oh. But yeah, I'm not afraid of anything. Except for a very, very mad Mama Chocobo. Then I'm gonna have to run away.
Or my Buster Sword. Or your mother.
Do you wish your uncle would let you keep one? My uncle does let me keep one. I have one. I named it Sly Blue. Because it's blue. It's a blue Chocobo. It's adorable.
Ow!
But my uncle does let me keep a Chocobo. He won't let me near the Regondola, though.
Don't need you hurting yourself.
It's a car! How can it hurt me? I do not fear the Imperial soldiers. I do not fear them. Because I know they can't do anything to me with my uncle around. Right, Uncle?
Correct.
Yay.
And guess what?
Huh?
There's one more surprise.
Uh-oh.
It's open.
Hey, nephew.
Wait, what?
No! No!
What?
No!
What is going on?
My other uncle! No!
Uh-oh.
Oh, jeez, I get no love. I see how it is.
My blind uncle, of all people.
Oh,
I would say something, but I'm not going to.
Noctis?
I know, right? I
Why
want
is
to say
he-
something.
Noctis? Why is he saying I'm blind? Probably because you have glasses, but I can see. Also, thank you.
Anyway, hi, Uncle Noctis. Anyway.
You see,
Why are you guys laughing so much?
don't worry about it.
I don't know what's going on.
Ow! Laughing is killing me.
Anyway, can we actually get questions so these guys will stop laughing?
Oh.
Come
Oh,
on.
my arm. My arm.
My stomach.
My arm hurts.
Let's see. Guys, we have another question. Okay.
What?
Hooray! Anyway,
What the?
Originally for the design, I was gonna
What?
actually leave like 2.
I'm okay.
let's see. It
sets
says
slash
rock
words.
rock boy, question and kind of a duel.
But I
Are you
decided to go with
stronger
the
than
basket
emo
weave.
boy Dabi? If so, prove it with an arm wrestling match. Can we not? Can we not have an arm wrestling match between two people? Can we not? Alright, Alden, what is your favorite weapon and your weapon? I don't have a weapon! I'm not allowed to!
Well, I mean, I'm still making that gift you asked of me, nephew.
Well, Mom doesn't let me have weapons. She says I could actually hurt myself.
Nephew? Nephew? You come.
Oh, God.
Because right now I'm
I
bleeding.
don't know why I'm laughing so hard.
Anyway,
Don't
I'm not.
ask.
Anyway, but yeah, my mom doesn't let me have weapons. I'm not allowed to have a weapon, so sorry. I'm not much help for that question. Anyway,
Who the fuck tagged me?
I heard someone yawn. Who's tired?
Oh, no.
also, I want you guys to do me a favor. Spread this around.
Wait, what?
Spread this around.
God dang it, it's so dark.
I want you guys also do me a favor. Spread this around everywhere.
Mm,
I'm talking about the stream.
Ew.
Ooh, excuse me.
I don't have anyone I could say
Ooh.
this
Ah! Oof. Arr.
Any other questions? No offense, but you guys are
Apparently
kind of.
not.
Any other
Yeah, I
questions?
know, we're boring.
No. Any other questions? Because like the chat went dead. Party time? No party. I don't like parties.
Ain't no time like a pretty bad time.
I don't like parties. They're too loud.
What?
oh, oh.
You're no fun.
They're too loud. If it gets too loud, then I can't really stand up straight.
I will be right back. I'm gonna go
Let's see.
take something for a minute. For a headache.
Alden, angsty little bit. I'm not angsty though. What is your favorite holiday and why?
If I remember correctly, you like.
Easter. Easter, cause that's the time that all the baby chocobos are hatched from their eggs.
Well, there's Easter, but you also like Christmas.
Well, I like giving gifts. But anyway. But yeah.
Someone's tired.
Nom 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 nom.
That was adorable.
I am not adorable. I will bite you.
But you are adorable.
I am not adorable!
Yes, you are.
Yeah, you are.
No, I'm not!
Yes, Yes, you are.
Yes.
No!
Yes.
No!
Yes.
Everyone in the comments, is this little bean adorable or not?
Adorable.
No!
So adorable. Oh Jesus, I sounded like Batman there for a second. Jesus, why am I so sweaty?
Mm. Questions! Apparently the holiday question went for everyone in the call, but we don't have time to make this too long.
I have
You
returned.
still have to go to bed at a certain time, nephew. And it's getting close to that set time.
Ah!
Oh, come on. You can stay up for just a little longer.
Apparently Dabi said that I could stay up a little
Unfortunately,
longer.
brother, I can't stay up
Since
much
when
longer
was
either. But
Dabi one who got to say what you get to do?
I'm just saying. Okay, that sounds like a kitten from the. I am not a kitten! I'm a chocobo. Get it right.
Just like your father. Why do you think we call him Choco Butt?
I thought you called Uncle Cloud that too.
All that too.
Speaking of Uncle Cloud, him and Uncle Sephiroth should be here soon.
My leg.
brother, that's my saying. But okay.
What? My leg hurt. Okay.
More questions!
Okay.
More questions, please. Before I burn one of you.
Ow, my butt.
Jeez.
More questions, people.
Anyway.
My freaking arm hurts.
You poor thing.
Okay.
That sarcasm I hear in your voice, brother.
Just a little bit.
Depends on which uncle you're talking about. Are you talking about my Uncle Gladio, Uncle Noctis, Uncle Ignis, Uncle Cloud, Uncle Sephiroth,
You have a lot of uncles.
Cousin Katsuke? It depends. What uncle are you talking about? Okay.
Hey, brother, why do you constantly touch your leg like that?
Also, according to Battle Cry, she said that didn't sound too heroic, Todoroki. The one with Buster. Oh, Uncle Gladio, what was the biggest thing you fought? Wasn't it that one big horned beast-looking monster? What do they call it? A behemoth?
Yep.
Okay, the behemoth. It was a summon.
Anything I say doesn't sound heroic at all
Very
anymore.
dangerous summon.
Wait, what? What was that saying, man? I don't know. Someone will always say something about this plus ultra thing. I don't know.
Oh, you mean the Go Beyond plus Ultra?
Muting, please, 'cause I'm about to
I
go
don't know.
off.
I heard someone after school apparently just keeps saying that wasn't very plus ultra of you or something. I don't know.
Isn't that what that one kid that's got green hair says? That's not very plus ultra view. Is that?
That's the
Yes.
Deku that people keep talking about.
Oh, you mean Uncle Cloud too? Probably Behemoth. Because the Behemoth is a really big monster. I saw a shadow come up to the door.
Hello, nephew.
Hi!
Hey, nephew.
Hi! Have you guys ever played VR Chat? Cards Against Humanity? I don't know what VR Chat is. I don't know what Cards Against Humanity is, and I don't. The only games I've played is sparring with my uncles.
I will tell you one thing: Cards Against Humanity, you're too young for.
Okay.
I've played both.
How is the UWBA doing? Are your studies What?
What's the question?
How is the UWBA doing? Are your studies going?
Who asked this question?
Rainy? What?
Sebastian, do you got any idea here? I don't even know what the fuck my daughter is talking about.
So what is in here?
Soda.
It's a soda? Why does it... Then why did it smell weird?
Probably because there's been so much soda in there.
Just ask them how school going. What school?
Are you referring to me?
Oh, I think they're talking about you, half and half, redhead. I think they're talking about you two. Apparently,
yeah,
how's school going?
School's going okay.
That's funny.
Ah! Bakugou was helping me.
Stupid things.
Are you sure nothing else going on behind closed doors, Kiri?
Hey! 14-year-old here! 14-year-old!
Hey, it's just like... Excuse... one little thing, though. You did say that the PG-13 did fly out the window a couple of minutes ago, so...
It doesn't matter! I'm still 14!
And he's
I
too
was...
young to know
Okay,
about
fine.
adult
I was talking about
activities.
sparring. How about that?
From what my uncle has said, there's many different ways of sparring. Alden, who's the better fighter when it comes to sparring, you or your uncle? Oh, my uncle.
Oof.
For now.
Hands down, my uncle, because I literally run away from him half the time.
Huh.
You run away
Kinda
from
sounds like,
training half of the time.
True, I do. I run away from training. I don't like training!
Huh.
That's why
Kinda sounds like a certain... Sounds like a certain green here, I know.
I don't want to be a fighter!
Don't be.
Let me tell you a secret about this world. You have to learn to defend yourself. Otherwise, you'll die.
Then I want to stay
Sounds like a...
Then I want to stay in the world with these three people.
They have to fight for their lives as well.
Well, probably not as bad.
Yes.
One of our... Okay.
Their lives are on the line 24/7, nephew.
How about I give an example of what we have to deal with? We have to deal with one person with multiple powers, who, by the way, is in prison right now, but we never know when he could break out. And then we have to deal with an entire league of bad guys.
Well, better than fighting a behemoth every day.
We provide
The
our own
biggest
behemoths
villain
that are
they
called
have to
nobody.
deal with is basically equal to the behemoth.
Fine, I'll go to a world that there is no fighting then.
Everywhere there's fighting.
Not
You
everywhere.
let me know how long it works out.
Even in that one show you like, nephew, what was it called? My Little Pony?
Hey, nobody needs to know about that. Nobody needs to know about that.
Even in that show, or world to be exact, they're still fighting.
Hey,
Fighting
you know
for
what?
your
There's
life is
nothing
a
wrong with
natural
that.
cause.
No, there is not.
Anyway,
Yes,
can we get actual questions and get me and so I can stop getting picked on by my uncle?
Hey, I just wanted to say one thing. We have a guy at our school married to one of the ponies. Trust me, we know how it is. He's a special kind of case, especially the fact that his mother is an Aizawa.
Wait, I have a brother.
In a way, yes.
Do I want to know how many siblings I have?
Well,
Probably not.
You have another.
Ow, my butt.
Well, let's just say your brother has a lot of wives.
Not to mention, you have two. I don't know how many wives you have in this universe. Jesus Christ.
Who's strong?
Yeah, who knows?
Who's stronger, you or Dabi? Who the heck are you talking about? Me? I'm not gonna fight anybody. Forget you people. I ain't fighting anybody.
Why do you people constantly insist that I fight you?
So,
Jesus.
who's
Get a little alone time here.
Granny. Uncle.
Yes.
Can I have a Pop-Tart?
Dabi, how many wives does that boy have?
What?
What Pop-Tart would you want?
Apple.
I'm talking about Max. Do you know if he has how many wives does he have again?
I have no idea.
Like 4, 5. Your brother. Let's just say this: your brother has issues.
No,
A lot more than he likes to talk about.
So, how many siblings do I have? Or do I want to know?
You don't.
You have a lot.
One of them stands out above the rest, who has over 4 wives, is the son of
Nephew,
Aaron Aizawa,
do you really want to
and
know?
has a very powerful quirk.
Probably not.
I was going to say ask your mother.
Mom rarely talks to me
I
anymore.
would explain to you what your brother's quirk
Maybe
is, but
someone
it's kind of too
needs to
complicated
press the
to
button
tell you.
she gave you. That might help. Speaking of buttons, where's that button your mother gave you?
I don't know. Shoto versus Dabi, who is strong? Can we stop asking who's stronger and who's not? This is supposed to be a. This is supposed. This is supposed to.
My brother.
This is supposed to be a nice and friendly and normal Q&A. Why are we asking who's stronger? That's a.
Honestly,
You guys are just asking for a fight. Quit it.
And I am not fighting my brother.
I'm not gonna fight him, but I think we all know who's stronger out of the brothers.
Yeah, Dad is.
Okay, first off, I said brothers, not family.
Okay, you know exactly what's going to happen if you and I start fighting. Dad's going to come in, and we do not.
I'm not gonna fight you. I'm just gonna say that depending on who has the ice and fire powers, that would probably be me. I'm just saying. Can't disagree with me on this.
I'm not even gonna.
No fighting. No.
I wasn't gonna fight. I was just being
If you
polite
boys
when I
want
said
to
that.
fight that badly,
I didn't say I
can make that arranged.
No, Uncle. No fighting.
We're not fighting anyone here.
No fighting. Why did the one with daddy issues go flying away when I said no fighting? Are you okay?
Ow.
Um,
Yeah, I'm fine.
when I said no fighting, when I got louder, the guy with daddy issues went flying.
Okay then.
Did I like hit him with like a force field or something?
Your voice probably projectiled.
Oops, sorry.
You gotta
You're
quit
fine.
saying that. That's why he runs away from everyone. Because everyone keeps bringing up daddy issues. And he
Could
hates
you
it.
stop with the daddy issue?
I'm just explaining, brother. Jesus. Think I really love talking about the old man, too?
No, not really.
Can we get more questions, please?
Apparently not.
More questions, please.
How about you guys actually go to the stream that I sent in chat and leave a question?
Rock Boy, without your quirk, what's your best talent and or pastime? This goes for Shoto and Dabi as well. Why do you keep calling Redhead Kid Rock Boy?
He
That's
has
because
a
my quirk.
name.
You guys are literally talking over each other. I was talking to the Redhead Kid. Nobody else answered those questions. Anyway.
It's because of my quirk. My body.
Wait, what?
You should answer that in a better way.
What?
Anyway, what was the question?
What's my best talent?
I've seen his doodles. He could be an artist.
Oh. I suppose.
He keeps doodling a guy with blonde hair.
Oh, he keeps dueling to Bakugo.
Oh, the explosion nerd.
Thank you.
Yes, I guess Miss Isella puts it.
Damn it.
Well, that's all I hear from him. I don't know.
Didn't they say that that question included me and you, brother?
Yes, it does.
Hmm.
Well, Shoto probably would be ice skating, because I did see him doing that earlier. And Dabi, I did see him helping a morgue. So
Wait, you saw me doing what earlier?
I saw you ice skating.
I mean, me.
If I was more physically fit, I would cosplay Inosuke. But I'm ugly as fuck.
Let's see. What do you wish you had right now if you could have anything in your... I don't want anything. Rin Okumura said, "Hey Shoto, why are you so sexy?" Wait, what?
Okay then.
Well,
I'm ugly, Dick.
I really don't know how to answer that. I don't know. Maybe it's because I work out a lot.
Yes.
Maybe.
Many times. No, you're not.
I mean, it's also the fact that I also have a very
Put it
hard
this way.
workout routine.
If you're ugly, then I'm not handsome.
Rinny said, "Ejirou, how is Kachan?
Yes,
I
it
heard
is.
he took his shirt off."
Wait, what?
Jam's like, fluffy motherfuckers.
Bakugo's fine.
What?
What
No
the?
more to that.
Hmm.
Oh.
Interesting.
I dropped a piece of my food.
Shut it.
Wait,
Hey.
what did you just do?
Can we ask actual, like, serious questions instead of picking on other people?
Hey, to be fair, hey, to be fair, Kiri,
Can we not?
I have a thing for a woman, so don't really want to.
I saw you making googly eyes at that green-haired kid, Icy Hot.
It wasn't the green-haired chick. It was
No,
the
I
black-haired chick.
saw you making googly eyes at that green-haired kid, the one that breaks his bones.
I said I was looking at. I said I had a thing for a chick.
Well, why were you making googly eyes at a green-haired boy?
Because he's
He
a
likes
friend.
both.
Wait, what?
He likes both.
He likes both, but he won't admit it.
So he's just like my uncle then.
Oh.
Not you, uncle. I'm talking about my other uncle. Noctis. My uncle Noctis. He liked my dad, but since my dad got with mom, he kind of went a little quiet a lot of the time. Anyway, questions! Questions, darn it!
No.
Pretty.
I think Ejirou has a crush, and also Alden. Besides Pop-Tarts, what's your favorite food? Well, Pop-Tarts is usually what I just eat for a snack. I do like some pastas, if we have it. Of course, it's if we have the food money for it.
You also like chicken.
I do like chicken a lot. What's your worst fear? I already said what my worst fear was. I don't fear anything. I don't fear anything.
That's fine.
I smell. Oh crap.
More of a question for you guys. Are you all ready for Halloween? I don't like Halloween.
I'm always
Character
Halloween.
Halloween is not
Check,
celebrated in my
you
country.
enjoy dressing up as a chocobo.
I don't
Well-
like Halloween.
Well,
Excuse me.
Is it because
Me
people
and-
scare you?
Yes!
Well-
and they do it on purpose!
That's the Halloween
I
spirit.
wish I could say my piece.
To be spooky.
I'm sorry, I'm being talked over by my uncle. Anyway, go ahead.
Okay, what I was gonna say is me and Momo have plans to be vampires, if that's what you're asking. Either that or we're planning to be Phantom of the Opera. But
Let's see. Rin Okumura, Alden, what was your toughest fight? Me trying to get away from my uncle?
Which you failed horribly at.
I did fail horribly.
ow!
You beating your arm? Jesus.
No, I'm beating up my leg
Why?
because it hurts.
Because his leg fell asleep.
Because that makes so much sense. Yes. Oh, Lord.
Brother,
What?
everything that you do doesn't make any sense.
Nom, 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 nom.
That's adorable.
I want that teddy bear that's over there, but I don't want to get up.
I'm okay.
You sure about that, brother?
Perfectly fine.
I'm trying to draw.
Shoto, how about you
See,
go
I'm
to your...
gonna smack the
Why?
wood.
Why are you being mean to Todoroki? What did he ever do to you?
Who asked this?
Damn, I'm gonna smack the
Rin
fucking shit out
Okumura
of
said,
you.
Todoroki, how about you go to your corner? What did he you?
What did I do?
Why are you being mean?
She's not dead. She
Last
never
time I
died.
checked, I wasn't being mean.
Think exactly of what you just said. That sounds better.
Besides your own universe, what other ones do... Oh, wait, there's Dabi. For Dabi, do you have feelings for anyone? Yes, he does. I saw him making googly eyes at that blonde chick. What was her name? What was her name? Wasn't it that Himiko girl,
Toga?
that Toga girl? He was making googly eyes at her. It was weird.
That's so brother.
Right, I actually forgot that.
How do you,
Right, the ultimate
You
death.
falling for the crazy chick, brother?
I mean, from what I did hear him say something to her, saying something like he would put his lower regions in crazy.
We don't talk about
I never
that
said
stuff,
that.
remember?
That's what he said, not me.
And you weren't supposed to be listening.
I just so happened to have passed by. Anyway, let's see. Besides your own universe, what others do you wish to visit? My uncles. The Uncle Clyde and Uncle Sephiroth's universe. But I'm pretty sure that I'd probably get myself killed there. Let's see. Shoto, why don't you train with me? Okay then.
Who'd ask that?
Ren Okamura.
Okay, I guess that'd be.
Let's see. Rena Con Fox said because Kirishima quote unquote rocked himself to sleep. What?
Huh?
Is it bad that
What?
I
If that was your
I'm still
attempt at
awake.
if
I
that was your attempt at a pun, that was very bad.
I think that was supposed to be a quote unquote dirty pun.
He's
Oh, I
exactly
get
like
it.
that.
I think that was supposed to be a dirty pun.
I get it.
I'm gonna go hide now while I'm trying to draw.
Anyway. By the way, if you see me like squint or try to get closer to the whatever this thing is, it's because I can't see. I think I'm going blind like my Uncle Ignis.
Ignis. Also,
I did say Ignis.
can you stop saying that?
Oh.
Also, no, could you
Dang it.
please stop saying I'm going blind? I'm wearing glasses. So I can read
Shoot.
better.
I still think you're
I
blind.
dropped
What?
I dropped a phone.
You say I go blind again, and you aren't getting that special old food that I promised you.
You're mean. I don't like you.
Oof.
Sounds like me when I first found out that Dabi was my brother.
Anyway,
That's the same reaction.
can we get other questions, please? So I don't
Oh,
so I don't try to throw something at my uncle.
we'd all love to see that.
Why don't you throw your shoe at him?
I would throw my shoe if I knew where my shoe was.
Uh-oh.
Nephew,
What?
if you have enough energy to throw stuff at Ignis, you have enough energy for training tomorrow.
I will purposely run away from that again.
You were
What was
saying-
that?
That felt like a bug bite.
I'll actually bite you then next time.
Dabi, shut up. You're not pulling dirty jokes. We're not going to talk about what you and Toga do in your spare time.
Hey, I never said I liked her.
Can we
Dude,
have
I saw it.
questions, please?
Dude, I saw you walk into a closet with her last week.
Can we not talk about that stuff, please?
Why is my brother spying on me? What the?
Boy, I'm not spying on you. Whatever. Anyway,
Yes.
Then why? You know what?
don't ask questions.
Did you just boot me?
God damn it, I'm drooling.
Bish. Bish, you have how many children? You try to say you're virgin here? Shut the fuck up.
Wait, what?
I have no idea.
I don't question it.
I don't question anything anymore.
Sounds like a you problem, brother.
You need me?
The fact that you have daddy issues.
Bullshit.
Excuse me, he's your father too.
Bullshit, Miss laughed so
I
hard
don't have
that
daddy
she
issues on
almost
the level
goes
that
into
you do.
He's still your father too.
No.
Yeah.
Alden, why not just train so your uncle can leave it alone? He's not gonna ever leave me alone. Doesn't matter if I do or don't train with him. He never leaves me alone about it.
Let me say this. I can vouch for what Alden is saying because I was forced to train with my father.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Todoroki's worst fear is losing his friends.
It is.
That and also a very big fear of
Tea kettles?
hot water.
We're not supposed to mention that, but okay.
What, tea kettles?
Yes. Don't mention that around my brother.
I mean, I have a tea kettle right here.
Brother, hide.
Dabi, what's your greatest fear? Losing Toga.
Yeah, that would be Max's heart that would be breaking. Since I'm going to be the main person
And probably
in
getting
the
his
house
butt
that's
kicked.
working, I need my hands.
It's either losing Toga or not being able to see his mother again.
And losing my brother, unfortunately, as
Ow!
well.
My
Ow!
my chest. Ow.
Wait, you said what about me,
I
brother?
said edgy bish.
You
I
heard
was
me. I
like,
don't want to
there's
lose
a
you.
difference.
Oh, that was sweet of you, brother. That's the first time I actually ever heard you say something sweet about me.
Can we actually get other questions, please?
Well, you heard Miss Aizawa. It was either we get along or she kills us both, so I'd rather
Fair
choose
enough.
life.
Jeez,
I'm drawing
Jeez,
right
my
now.
mom sounds like a... Okay, I'm gonna be quiet because I don't want my uncle getting mad at me and throwing something at me. He didn't say anything! He didn't say anything!
What? I was stretching. So you guys ready to see my first ever rough draft hairstyle?
My mom still sounds like an all-out butthole.
Ah! Dang it!
Ow! What? She told these two boys if they didn't get along, she'd kill them.
You do know that those two boys literally try to kill each other even though they're brothers, right?
So? If I knew anything about my brothers, I'd probably try to kill them too.
No, you wouldn't.
I don't know. Probably.
Your brother's a lot more of a
Can we stop
interesting
talking?
case.
Hold on a sec. Can we stop talking about Dragon Ball, please?
Let me guess. Stanley?
No, Xavier said Todoroki. Who has worse father issues, you or future Trunks?
Hey, Trunks
I'll
does not
only-
have daddy issues.
Okay, look, I'm just going to say this. I'm going to answer this last question about Dragon Ball, and then we're going to stop. But I have worse, trust me. At least he got to talk to his father, and at least his father kind of respects him.
Anyway, no more Dragon Ball related questions! Literally, out of character. Like, out of character, guys. Stop asking Dragon Ball questions. There's literally someone in here that literally did not grow up on Dragon Ball at all. Stop it.
I sort of grew up on Dragon Ball, but not really.
No, but the fact that these questions are getting annoying, that they're all, like, almost every freaking time I do a stream, we get Dragon Ball related questions.
The question right now should only be My Hero Academia related for Dabi, Kirishima, and Todoroki, and Final Fantasy related for the new character. Do it right, people, or people are going to start getting timed out.
Thank you, Rennie. She said no Dragon Ball Z, please. The next time it pops up, I'll time you out.
The only time we will reference that is
Dad mode. I plan to be a father in the future.
Anyway, any other questions that are not Dragon Ball related?
Next Dragon Ball related question gets a timeout. I'm being serious.
And we seriously have 8 people in here. Come on, people.
So, do you guys want to see how big Akihito's hair is? A lot. Of course your ass is curious. And the reason why I put, like, the markings like I did for the tips of the hair is because that's where the black is going. Yep.
What is your favorite song? I don't listen to music. What about you, Dabi?
I don't know. Mr. Varian doesn't really let us listen to music that often.
Okay, what about you?
He says it's too distracting.
Oh. Well, what about you, Todoroki? Favorite song? Is it that one Katy Perry song called Hot and Cold?
No. Probably no.
Actually heard it's Baby Shark.
It's not Baby Shark. It's actually just... Actually, no. My favorite song is Welcome to the Jungle.
Wait, what?
Welcome to the Jungle by Guns N' Roses. Don't worry about it. It's a old song.
Oh, okay. Well, what about you, Kirishima?
Thank you for saying my name. It's a tie between Baby Shark and Bakugo.
Wait, what?
The song. The song!
There's
a song! Yes. It's a manly song.
Uh-oh. And there goes Rin.
Okay, so, what's your guys' favorite game series? It can be more than one series. I don't play games! I can't! Because if I don't train, I don't get to play around.
Sonic.
You have to earn fun time.
Anyway, so, what about you, Dabi?
I really don't know.
Danganronpa.
Anyway, what about you, Todoroki?
Like I said before, Sonic series.
Anyway, what did you say, Kirishima?
Danganronpa.
Oh, Danganronpa. Okay. Did you guys know that people ship Tokuyami and Bakugo?
No, I did not.
It's weird. It's cute. Aww. Aww. Credit goes to artist, but this is adorable.
Wait, huh? Where? What?
Here. Sorry, I had to turn my brightness down. Maybe you'd get to see it better.
That is adorable.
Ew! Ooh!
Jesus
Thank you.
Christ. Scared the crap out of me. Oh, it's
Yeah.
Bird Boy, an explosive dork.
Yeah, didn't really scare me. Takes a lot to scare me.
Mm-hmm. That's what you said the last time.
Aw.
Anyway. Anyway, apparently, Rini said, "You sure about that, Kirishima? We all know you like Kachan."
It's Halloween month.
He's very manly, and he's a good friend of mine.
I can smell the BS from here,
But
Kirishima.
Halloween's not for
I know,
like
right?
3 to 4 weeks.
Shut it, Pokeball.
What'd you just call me?
I called you a Pokeball.
I gotta
Not
be
a
honest, that's
Pokeball.
kind of funny.
Daddy, shut up.
I just found something on this site called Facebook, and it says, "Remember when Todoroki froze an entire stadium because he was just upset? Like, dead A, this bish just created a whole new ecosystem in an ice age because he was just upset."
Really?
Just having a heart.
Really, brother?
Mood swings.
Did you seriously freeze an entire
Huh?
stadium because you were
Send
upset?
a photo of Giyu
You
real
have
quick.
got to be
I
kidding
need
me.
his like outfit to get an idea.
I'm not gonna say anything only because
Should've
it's because of
burned
my
the damn
father. It was because of my father.
You should have just burned the damn thing.
How about you stop judging me on what I do and what I do not do? I
Just
used
saying.
mother's power because I wanted to. Mother was almost my favorite parent anyway.
Even though she was the one that burned you.
I honestly don't blame her.
Okay.
Mhm.
Exactly what I needed. So
Still love her. Damn it, now I'm crying.
Oh, you poor thing. Do you need a towel?
Shut up.
So apparently Rin Okamura dares you, Shoto, to sing Baby Shark.
Wait, what?
Oh, but I enjoy this.
I don't know if I could because I would be afraid of this stream getting copyrighted.
okay.
Is Baby Shark
So-
copyrighted?
I think it might be. So that's why I'm probably not going to try it. Though, if I could, I would take the dare.
Anyway, ooh.
Oh. Oh.
Oh,
I almost forgot to say it. I don't fucking know.
Anyway, can we actually have
Ow!
Can we have actual questions, please?
Yes,
If
please.
you guys can't come up with any good questions, the stream will be ending sooner than later.
Come on, people. I know you have it deep within you.
Ew.
That's not what I meant.
Uncle,
Yes,
what's this stuff doing on Facebook?
Wait, what?
they made it allowed.
That's nasty.
Why are you looking at it?
I was scrolling through my news feed and it was on my news feed. Ooh. Hey! Is that Explododork? As Mom
Yes.
puts it?
Yep.
And then that's Icy Hot. Who's the guy in the back? He looks
That
he looks like- he
is
looks like-
Tia.
he looks like is he blind too?
Can you stop saying blind?
I'm actually legit asking though.
That's rude. You should know better than to call someone with glasses blind.
Mm.
Right?
Mm.
question, nephew. You get to do an extra set of push-ups.
No. I will.
Answer my question.
I will run away again.
Jeez, I wish I could just run away from my problems.
Leg weights.
No.
Kind of like how you ran away from this family that I was in.
Would you just shut up about that? I had my reasons for leaving.
There are seriously 8 people watching this stream. Can we please get questions?
Oh, that's cute.
You left me to train
Oh, the Nezuko.
with father.
Anyways.
I don't know why you didn't just take me with you.
I couldn't. Honestly, think if I could, I would have.
I love how pictures are being sent when I'm trying to draw, damn it. I'm trying to memorize the damn warrior cloaks and you are not helping. Will you? Thank you. I swear if I see another one.
Oh. Oh, shit.
Language.
I just cremated my frickin' phone.
What?
Great.
No, what
Brother, how did you cremate your own phone?
Because I sneezed and fire came out of my nose, okay?
What do you like to do in your spare time besides... I'm not allowed to do anything in my spare time besides train. Again, Uncle Gladio is kind of a butthole like that.
Spend time with Momo is what I usually do.
I guess it's spending time with
How about
Toga
you
for
ask
me.
these boys here that are with you, nephew, how important it is to train? Maybe
Yeah,
then
training.
you'll actually see why I work so hard to train you. Boys, how about you tell my nephew exactly what it's like to be in a world that you have to fight for your life?
Hard.
It's not like we choose to.
Extremely hard.
Especially for us, too, because our father kind of forced it onto us.
Okay, first off, you left before he could even force you to do any more.
He was forcing me before I left.
Yeah, but you didn't see how much worse he got as time went on. It made him so scared that my mom saw him and me.
Can we
And I'm not
not...
putting
Nephew,
Can we not fight?
nephew,
What?
in this world, I know it sucks, but you have to fight to survive.
And I don't want to survive.
How about you say that one more time?
I think your uncle's gonna
I
hit
dare
you.
ya.
Believe me, I already get hit on a practically daily basis from my uncle. Doesn't
And I
bother
swear
me.
to God, if any of you guys in the chat make
What?
jokes
The chair.
about
That's why I've been hitting.
domestic abuse, just putting this out
Anyways.
there as a warning. If any of you
How
make a joke about
You say
child
that
protective
one
services,
more time, nephew. I'm being serious. Go ahead. Say it one more time. There's definitely not someone right behind you giving you a motherly stare. Well, I can't say behind you. She's more beside you.
Meh.
Besides, didn't you promise that one other young onion that's around the same age as you that you would survive just for them?
He died, remember?
Then who's that over there?
What if you... Okay, don't bribe me with food. That's mean.
Yeah. Nice try.
Who's trying to bribe you with food? Who's trying to bribe you with food?
Rennie.
Could you not hit your leg like that, brother?
That and patting my dog.
Oh, wait, you have a dog, brother?
Yes. Toga got me the dog.
Are they still fighting?
Partially. Excuse me.
Sebastian,
No.
you take care of them.
Let me do it. Todoroki? Dabi?
Mm-hmm. Ow! What the fuck?
Stop fighting!
What was that for?
Both of you have been arguing since we started the stream. That's enough.
Not
I
my
have to go
fault.
to-
These people just want to see us argue.
This way.
I'll be back. I gotta go to the restroom.
Anyway, if I'm not gonna get any more questions, I'm gonna be ending the stream. Okay, well, I'm ending stream, guys, so
Okay.
like, comment, whatever. Mom says to slap that subscribe button like you slap the booty, whatever the heck that means. Don't care. I'm moving on.
I'm
So-
Toga isn't here. I'd show you what that means, but I'm pretty sure your uncle would kill me.
Probably, but anyway, bye.
Bye.
Wait, what? What? Wait, what?
I'm ending stream, Todoroki.
Oh, bye, guys.
Hey, redhead.
Huh?
We're ending stream.
Oh, bye.